Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for a NPhA Career Panel. We have some amazing panelists. I'm very excited for you all to hear, and let's get to know them a bit better tonight. So this program will be hosted by myself and Dr. Kirsten Hill. And before we even get started, everyone, if you have an Instagram account, please follow at NPhA New Practitioners on Instagram. So just take a few moments, go to your Instagram page and follow at NPhA New Practitioners. No spaces. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So just a little bit about the New Practitioners Network. It is a subsidiary committee of the National Pharmaceutical Association. The New Practitioners Network is comprised of pharmacists practicing within their first 5 years of practice. So with NPhA, if you are interested in being involved in the National Pharmaceutical Association, particularly the New Practitioners Network Committee, there are so many opportunities for leadership, networking skills, and CE credits. But let's get started. So first, we would like to ask our panelists to just give a brief introduction of what they do, pretty much so your current position, so a bit about your current position, and just some advice that you've learned, a brief point of advice that you've learned along the way, just to get started. So Dr. Jam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jacinda Abdul-Mutakabir. I recently got my wisdom teeth removed like Thursday, so I am in a very compromised state right now, feeling very much like 50 Cent, but how I imagine he felt. But nevertheless, I am an assistant professor at Loma Linda School of Pharmacy as well as the School of Medicine. I am infectious diseases trained, so I went to Howard University for undergrad. I graduated in 2014. I went to the University of St. Joseph in Hartford, Connecticut. I graduated in 2017. It's an accelerated 3-year program. And then I went back to Howard where I completed my PGY1 pharmacy residency, where Lauren actually was one of my students when I was a resident. And then I completed my pharmacokinetics, my infectious diseases pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics research fellowship under the tutelage of Dr. Mike Ryback in Detroit, Michigan at Wayne State, as well as a master's in public health. I am from Detroit, Michigan, so it was fun to go back home, and got married shortly after. So I guess, that's been my life in a nutshell. In terms of what I do, I wear, I guess, a lot of hats here at Loma Linda. So because I am infectious diseases trained, I am the co-course coordinator for the infectious diseases course module here at the School of Pharmacy. I also course coordinate renal and respiratory, both during the same time, which is what I'm doing right now. So my life is quite literally in shambles, and 2 different classes. So it's a nice dynamic of P2s and P3s I get to see for the next, I think we only have 5 to 6 weeks left of the quarter. So I'm excited about that. And then I am a critical care pharmacist. So I practice in the ICU here at Loma Linda when I am practicing. I also have an equity arm. So utilizing my master's in public health. So I am the lead clinician and lead pharmacist for the equity clinics that we have at Loma Linda University, which is an effort that we utilize to target minoritized communities and increasing vaccine uptake amongst those minoritized communities. So we've published our methods in various journals, one of which including the Lancet. And I lead that effort there with them. And I also have a research laboratory. So I'm bench trained. I'm an in vitro researcher. So in the School of Medicine, I do antimicrobial synergy research, and my specialty is combination research against gram-negative multi-drug resistant bacteria. And that is what I do in the School of Medicine. I also teach in the anti-racism course. Oh, a piece of advice. A piece of advice that I've learned is to negotiate your salary. My goodness. And negotiate your salary and the expectation of what it is that you can see yourself being. In academia, you have one time to really negotiate until you reach associate professor, then you can negotiate again, and then you can negotiate when you get full professor. But it's a full 4 to 5 years of separation between assistant and associate professor, and then like a 10-year separation, 7 to 10 year from associate to full professor. So in that during that time, because I am tenure track, I am unable to make any negotiations. I'm locked into the rate, and then I get whatever bonuses that that I am afforded during my time here at Loma Linda. But I cannot negotiate a new salary or anything for my laboratory. And knowing what I know now, I would have made them pay me for my degrees, made them pay me for what it is I knew I was capable of and what it is I knew I could bring to the table. So I think the biggest thing, and with us being, or NPhA being the premier organization for minoritized practitioners, as Black and Brown individuals, we often compromise what it is that we know we can do, because for me, I was happy to get a job. I knew the odds that I was facing. I knew the competition that was there, but I did not take into account what it is that I was, the training that I had, and what it is that I could be, and ultimately what I was going to be for the institution. And I wish I had that confidence in myself. And now looking backward, it is my biggest regret that I did not negotiate. So negotiate, know your worth.
Dr. Jam, ladies and gentlemen. Right, thank you so much. Dr. Lewis?
I have to go after all of that. Nah, she's amazing. So let's see. I am Martine Lewis. You may know me as Martine Vernon if we knew each other in pharmacy school. I am currently practicing as a psychopharmacologist at the Department of Veteran Affairs in North Texas. I practice for the Business 17. So I manage 7 different VA facilities as an academic detailing program manager. Mental health is my passion. So no matter what I do, no matter what area I move in, I will always have some hand in mental health. Very important. Don't forget about your mental health, just as important as your physical health. But where did I start? So I graduated in 2013 from University of Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Texas. After graduating from pharmacy school, I actually went into retail management at Target Pharmacy, now CVS Pharmacy. Worked there as a pharmacy manager and a district liaison for a couple of years. And then I went back and did my residency at the Phoenix VA with my love, Dr. Harold, that you'll hear from her soon. I did the ambulatory care track. I've always had a passion for outpatient. And then I did my PGY2 in mental health at the Denver VA with Dr. Jeff Gold, where I just further grew my passion for, one, providing direct patient care and just really finding ways to improve transitions of care and amplifying continuity of care within the VA. So I took that into my clinic at the Fort Worth VA. I had the option of going into a clinic with multiple different providers or starting my very own clinic. And I went to start my very own clinic, and it was tough, but it was a great responsibility. I will never regret it. Did that for about 4 years. And then I've always been a person that was interested in technology. I like to use technology to my advantage. I go with the mindset of, if there's a process I don't like doing, there's always an easier way to do it. And so I find ways to do things easier, but not demeaning the process. And so I went back and got my master's in healthcare informatics. And once I completed that, I took the current position that I'm in as an academic detailing program manager. Let's see, best advice. I think it would be, I'm trying to go between the two. So I think one is not being afraid to take on opportunities that you may not want to do in the beginning. I think when you limit yourself, you may miss out on great opportunities. You may miss out on meeting some wonderful individuals that could kind of uplift your career. So not limiting yourself and being open, because you can always change. You can always do something different. The good thing about pharmacy is that there's so many areas you can practice in, and the pharmacy community is very small. So if you know the right people and you get the right education, get the right background, you can move around in other places. And so I think taking that advice and having that mindset, I've been able to move in different areas. And if I need to get some experience and do something on the side, I'll do what I have to do, but I'm able to move around and do different things so I don't get bored. So being a Gemini, that works in my favor.
An icon. Dr. Lewis, everyone. All right. Dr. Lauren Latin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lauren Latin. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. I attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for undergrad. Started out with a business background, but came from a family of nurses. Wanted to be the first doctor in my family. Like Dr. Abdul, I apologize, I'm not gonna try the second part, said I attended Howard University College of Pharmacy, and I'm currently pursuing my NPH back at the University of North Carolina. Growing up in Charleston, didn't really know about unconventional pharmacy roles until I got up into DC, and people learned that I had a global wealth and investment management background. So throughout school, I tried to I guess gain experiences, whether that was with SNAFA, various organizations, internship experiences, so that I can learn what I'm passionate about and what I like, and ultimately decided to pursue a role that was a culmination of pharmacy and business. So I started out in a leadership development program with Cigna called the Managed Care Rotational Program, which is very commercial, had rotations in marketing and sales. And currently I'm a bid strategy senior analyst. So in simple terms, if a huge corporation like Coca-Cola wants pharmacy benefits from a PBM like Express Scripts, I'm the person that's working with the team to make sure that that bid is done successfully and so that we can gain that business. In regards to advice for students, I think it's very important to network. I truly think my capability to network and be relatable to other people have opened doors and opportunities for me. And shameless plug, I'll put it in the chat as well. I love to try to plan events. So also helped plan the Minority Pharmacist Entrepreneur Conference as well. I'll put that information in there. And then since Dr. Lewis mentioned mental health, Cigna is actually sponsoring a mental health event called Fit for You. Again, I'll put that information in the chat. It's hybrid, so it will be hosted on Howard University's campus November 1st, but it will also be virtual. And then last but not least, advice for new practitioners would probably be just not to be closed-minded, to think more about delayed gratification versus short-term gratification. Just because you're in a role and you don't like it doesn't mean you can't leave or get another job or use that network to navigate your path. I think a lot of people focus on the short term or maybe financial and don't focus on other aspects that help them be successful. So for me, I knew I was not living north of DC. And that's one of the main reasons why I applied for this program, was because I was able to live in the South or DC. So I'm based in Atlanta. So keep an open mind, and relationships are important. So you never know who you may know or how your interactions in the past may potentially help or hinder your career growth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latin. I'm very excited to see my OG SNAP-fam. So this was a great reunion of sorts. So just amazing. We love to see it, truly. Dr. Hunter.
I'm up bad. I'm up to bed. My dog is turning up in the background, so here's this turning up. But first of all, thank you guys for inviting me. Definitely feel Saying my connection is unstable. Can you? Okay, good. So thank you guys for inviting me. Definitely an honor to be here with you all. I feel like I'm an old head in here mainly because one of my former students is also on the panel. So that is something that makes me happy, first of all. So first I should start out with that. Makes me happy and thankful that I've been able to impact at least one individual's life in that way. And it also shows you how you should treat individuals, regardless if they're your subordinate or if they're your peer or if they're, your supervisor or somebody, your direct report. I think a lot of times when people get over other individuals, the key to my career and the key to my success has been that no matter how high I've gone, I've never looked down on the individual, never tried to treat a student like they weren't going to be a pharmacist in a year or two. So I think those are the reason why my relationships is really spread out and being very, very fruitful from all of my students, colleagues that I worked with. And, also being that I go that I've done, but I'm going to tell you guys what I think that would be the real thing. But I mean, to estimate about it, I think that stomp on them. You need to mentor them and bring them up. Or if you have resident, then you got a P4 that will be where you are. I see that very, very free.
You're breaking up a little bit. Breaking up a little bit, Dr. Hunter.
I think he's off now. I think he cut out.
Okay. Let's give him we'll give him a couple of moments.
Lost me.
Okay.
Lost me for a second there. Look like, am I back? All right. Yes. So as I was saying, for some reason my internet connection is unstable, but apologize for that. But as I was saying, thing is that you're thinking about the way you treat individuals that you work with, no matter what they are in relation to you. I think that's probably things that I was medical associate professor at Texas Southern University. I've been teaching there for past thousands as far as pharmacy students that I've been able to teach. So that's a blessing in itself. So I don't know how new I am. I feel like I'm old, but I'm still glad to be here. I also practice as a clinical pharmacy specialist in breast medical oncology at the University of Texas Memorial Hermann Cancer Center. I've had the privilege to be the program director for our Texas Southern University Breast Cancer Screening and Prevention Center that helps to pretty much engage women and help to pay for mammograms and screening and diagnostics when they don't have insurance or they're underinsured, to lead them to treatment for breast cancer. As you know, like women is Breast Cancer Awareness Month anyway. So women, of course, African-American women of color die of breast cancer at a rate. And sometimes it's been documented as up to twice as much as their Caucasian counterparts. So that granted, a lot of the things I do in the community are really focused on trying to battle that particular problem we have as a community. I would say the last thing that I would mention is something I'm happy to do is I'm part of the healthcare professional education team with Lilly Oncology, specifically with the Verzenio Vision group. So me and other physicians, 2 other nurse practitioners, essentially are involved in the program level, patients, practitioners, prescribers on the use of that particular medication is for breast cancer. So I'm part of that team and a host of other things. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm the faculty advisor for our SNAPA chapter at Texas Southern University. We won chapter of the year, had some awards just recently. So we're proud of that. And we continue to keep pushing on. So thank y'all for having.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hunter, and thank you for the impact that you have made on students at Texas Southern. And the students just across the board, you've made an impact. So thank you so much, is greatly appreciated. And SNAFA, honestly, SNAFA really changes lives, y'all. If you are a student on this webinar, please, please, please join SNAFA. It is literally a life changer. It's a game changer. It definitely defined my pharmacy school experience. And I have met several people, including every single person on this panel I've been connected to through SNAFA. So please join SNAFA if you're a student, and NAFA if you are a new practitioner. Shameless plug. Dr. Chinyere.
All right, good evening, everyone. Hopefully everybody can hear me very well. My name is Chinyere Onyuremba. I'm currently serving as a PGY2 Health System Pharmacy Admin and Leadership Resident at Baylor Scott & White Health here in Dallas, Texas. So I kind of took a non-traditional route and actually completed a PGY1 community-based residency through Baylor Health Enterprises. And so Baylor Scott & White has kind of a complicated system, but it's basically an integrated healthcare system that incorporates both outpatient services, outpatient pharmacies, as well as your inpatient services. And so fun fact, I chose pharmacy as a career at the age of 16. And so I happened to, starting off, I'm Nigerian. So we all know Nigerians really don't have a lot of options when it comes to career paths. But I knew from a really young age that I was very interested in science and healthcare and taking care of people and communicating. And so I decided that I wanted to choose a role that would allow me to utilize all of my different skills, all of the different information that I was able to learn. And I wanted to do something where I wouldn't have to touch people and I wouldn't have to see blood. So pharmacy seemed like the perfect career for me. And I happened to actually meet like a mentor type of situation. I was part of an organization called Teens with a Purpose in the Hampton Roads area. So if you are from the Hampton Roads area or currently in the Hampton Roads area, please volunteer with Teens with a Purpose. I sit on their board of directors. Shameless plug for that. So I found a mentor and she was actually a student at Hampton University. And I was like, oh my God, like this is everything that I want to do and everything that I'm passionate about because of this organization, because of the things that you're able to do. And so from there, I kind of just decided on that and I stuck with it and ran with it. I ended up completing my bachelor's at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. Ended up taking a gap year because, sometimes those extra classes, they don't really tell you about, they don't usually tell you about those extra classes that you got to take to get into pharmacy school. And then I ended up going to Notre Dame of Maryland in Baltimore, Maryland, and really enjoyed my experience. And from there, it was a really small private school. They really had a brand new NPhA chapter, like literally, maybe the second year of existence or first year of existence when I was on campus. And I fell in love with the organization again, because it was things that I was passionate about and something that I knew that no matter how far I went in the career, it was something that I wanted to make sure that I always kind of hold dear to my heart. And so SNAFA kind of took hold of me and I was not able to let go. So I ended up being chapter president 2 times because small private school and, things happen to students. And so I took the opportunity to gain a lot of leadership experience, even though I've had a lot of leadership experience throughout, matriculation through undergrad and so on and so forth. And so I took to SNAFA and just loved the mission and really took it to heart. And from there, I decided that I wanted to do AmCare. So you'll hear that a lot. I feel like a lot of people end up going into some kind of outpatient, like just because of our passions, we do like taking care of the people in some way, sort of fashion. And so I took that to heart and decided to complete a community-based residency. The one thing that was really different about my community-based residency is that not only was I completing some of my rotations or longitudinal experiences in a outpatient pharmacy, I was also spending most of my time in some kind of primary care clinic. And so we serve primarily underserved, uninsured or underinsured patients, mostly Black, Brown patients or patients of Hispanic descent. And so we spent a lot of time managing their hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol, all sorts of things. And I was really passionate about that, but I also knew that I have a passion for leadership. And so through a lot of research and just figuring out, I really wasn't even aware of the PGY2 health system or HSPAL residency at my institution. And so it was something that kind of fell in my lap, and it's really unheard of to only have a PGY2 experience, and not it being a conjunct program. And so I'll end by saying that you have to be flexible. There is nothing within our profession that allows you to stay in the same position forever and ever. There's so much about healthcare that is changing on a regular basis. And there's so much about yourself that you haven't learned yet. And you sometimes don't learn that until you're put into a situation that you never thought you would be in. And so it's being flexible with yourself, being flexible with your growth, also being flexible with what you think you want. Because sometimes what you want is not always what is best for you. And sometimes what you don't want happens to you, and it's actually everything that you ever could have wished for. And so that is really a nutshell of my story and my advice. But definitely, I think for everybody that's listening, no matter what position you're in, like our other panelists have said, grab onto opportunities, because you just don't know how that can be a blessing for you.
Thank you so much. Gems from, again, OG SNAP fam, literally. We love to see it, truly. Definitely something that resonated with me personally is the involvement with SNAFA really makes you want to serve the underserved. I did not say this in my introduction, but I'm currently a clinical pharmacy specialist in ambulatory care with Indian Health Service in Gallup, New Mexico. And one of the main reasons I moved from Virginia to New Mexico was to serve the underserved. I serve the Native American population, and it's definitely been the most fulfilling experience I could have had. So, and SNAFA definitely helped a lot with that, to help me discover that passion. Thank you so much for your wonderful gems. Dr. Acosta.
Thanks, Star. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Star, for inviting me to be on the panel. Before I talk about myself, I just want to kind of reiterate what's been said already. I can't say enough good things about SNAFA, or the Student National Pharmaceutical Association. I attended the University of Connecticut, and that's something that I joined my freshman year of college. And it really kept me grounded and really focused me on why I really wanted to be in pharmacy in the first place. Everything else I was involved, I had about a year in NPhA. I was involved in things like Graduate Student Senate, Pharmacy Student Government, but in terms of something with a mission, something where you're part of a bigger community, you're having a bigger impact, I can't say enough good things. And I've been so fortunate to meet people like Chinyere, Star, Lauren through the Student National Pharmaceutical Association. So that, I would almost call that my piece of advice to get involved with that or NAFA. But enough about that. I will go ahead and get to the point and introduce myself. So I'm Jennifer. Currently a medical science liaison in dermatology with UCB, a global biopharma company. Yesterday I passed, I became MSL certified. So I've been in the role, now I'm certified, I can get out in the field. And what I really, my focus is engaging with top dermatologists, top KOLs in the space, sort of gathering insights that will influence our strategy on the inside so we can optimize patient care, really understand what patients are going through, and then translate that into innovative healthcare. And so I'm really passionate about being able to have these scientific exchanges with physicians, nurse practitioners, physicians assistants, and being able to take that information and collaborate internally. In addition to that, I am also a marketing director for Chick Tech, which is a nonprofit focused on empowering women and marginalized populations in the tech sector. So I feel very fortunate that I'm able to use both my medical background and my business background in what I'm doing today to be able to impact people in different ways. So attended UConn while I was at the University of Connecticut. I worked for Yale New Haven Hospital. I was a medical affairs consultant at Biohaven Pharmaceuticals for a little bit under 2 years. And during that time, because of the nature of the company being so small, I was able to take on projects and support business development, health economics outcomes research, as well as primarily medical affairs, as well as marketing, commercial strategy. That actually is what kind of sparked me to go and pursue my MBA. So also working on that. And it's just been an incredible journey. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I had a really great experience as a pharmaceutical project management fellow through the Eli Lilly Visiting Scientist Fellowship Program. It's 1 year. It's about a 70-30 split where I spend about 30% getting that fellowship experience. The rest of the time is spent on the ground. You're thrown right in, so you don't have any busy work. So I covered immunology and diabetes assets. I engaged in cross-functional leadership, working with marketing, regulatory, med affairs, clinical development. So that gave me a lot of experience, specifically working on a new indication, new dermatologic indication in the immunology space that sort of catapulted me into this role now. And so the biggest piece of advice I would say is probably you always want to make sure that you advocate for yourself, and that can look like different things. So I know we typically think about advocating for ourselves in terms of getting opportunities, but sometimes you can have a lot of, if you're doing great work, as I know we all strive to do, it's in our blood as pharmacists, a lot of opportunities can come your way. So making sure you're advocating and making sure that you're picking things out strategically that set you up for success, so that you're not just taking every opportunity that comes your way. So you're being really strategic and making yourself dynamic, because who knows, you may want to do something in the future that's completely different from what you're doing now. You may love what you're doing and you may want to change. So for me, I've been able to get experience in med affairs, marketing, and pharmaceutical project management. And now I'm working in a nonprofit in the tech space. So just trying to make yourself as well-rounded as possible, so that you never know what can happen. The world changes every day. So.
Dr. Jennifer Acosta, everyone. All right. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Ashley Harold.
Oh, you made me last. Okay. Hello, everyone. Like everyone said, Dr. Shans, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss what I do on a day-to-day basis. So as of now, I serve as the inpatient clinical pharmacy specialist for cardiology at the South Texas VA in San Antonio. But where did I start? That's kind of where I am, but there's a path, as everyone has described for themselves. I started out very similar to Chinere, loving math and science, and trying to figure out and navigate, how do you foster this knack that you have a math and science interest into a career. And I remember getting my degree in biochemistry from Texas Southern University, not from Texas Women's University, and being on my last year and someone saying pharmacy. And I am from East Texas, a very small town. So I'm like, you mean the guy that counts the pills? Like, what do you mean, a pharmacist? So my exposure was very limited, but through connections, had the opportunity to shadow and get a different perspective about what pharmacy looks like. And of course, the person I shadowed is an alumni from Texas Southern University. And I can't harp on that enough, because I will say throughout the entire process, this person who met me once basically ushered me into the profession and ensured that I got into Texas Southern University. And although I got into other schools, I knew based off of that interaction that Texas Southern University is the place that I am supposed to be. Being there, I had a great opportunity for 4 years to be fostered and nurtured by the best. Thank you, Dr. Hunter, along with all the other faculty. And through the confidence building, even, being a student, I had the opportunity to become a Valor student. Not knowing what that really meant when I first signed up for it. I just knew this is an internship. This is a great opportunity for me to learn and grow. But I will say that was probably the most significant life-altering experience that I've had thus far, because it showed me the beautiful world of the VA and what pharmacy practice can look like within that realm. So I have not left. I was a Valor student for 2 years, did my PGY1 in acute care focused PGY1 at the Phoenix VA with the lovely Dr. Martine Lewis as my co-resident. After that, I did realize and recognize that, I love cardiology. I have a knack for it, but how do I approach this second year? As you all know, cardiology is very, very specialized, and unfortunately, you can limit yourself if you decide to specialize in that specialty. So I decided to do internal medicine because, being a person who was adaptable and a jack of all trades, I felt like that fit my personality well. And it served me well in that I had the opportunity to rotate on a cardiology service that did not have a pharmacist during my second year residency at the South Texas VA, and created a space for myself and have stayed on in that position for 4 years. In my current role, I've had the opportunity to create relationships with cardiologists, with patients, and also have had the opportunity to branch out and be an adjunct faculty member for UT and foster students' growth and do lectures and research. Furthermore, I have had the opportunity to advance myself in my experiences, very much like everyone has said, you create a space for yourself. So I started a heart failure class that has catapulted me into the outpatient world and the beauty of the ability to sit down and talk to someone who's not intubated, which I can appreciate, especially since that's where most of my patients look like in the inpatient services. But through that, have won awards starting this innovative class that has shown to reduce hospitalizations and money for the facility. So something that I'm very proud of, in addition to the research that I do with residents and medical residents in my current position. Making sure I'm not missing anything, but the last thing I know I'm supposed to do is give advice. So I made a whole list of all the different advice I could give, and I will say everyone here hit adaptability. They hit, the finding advantages where you are and expanding your bandwidth. But I will say that none of us got here without probably focusing on our why. This is a very challenging profession. Throughout the day, there's ebbs and flows. There's times where you have great days and there's days that you have bad days. But I will challenge everyone to focus on their why, because that keeps you grounded and keeps you pursuing to a higher level. So that would be the best advice I would give, in addition to all the other things that the panelists said.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Dr. Harold. We'd love to see it, truly. Such great gems. Thank you to every single person on this panel. I cannot thank you enough for volunteering your time to give such great advice, to say like what you do in your profession. Pharmacy is extremely broad. There's so much you can do in the field of pharmacy. And this career panel is just a glimpse. It's to give the attendees a glimpse of so many different facets and sectors of pharmacy. So if anyone on our panel or any of our attendees have any questions for our panelists this evening, please feel free to put them in the chat.
It looks like we have one already specifically for Dr. Lewis. I'll go ahead and ask Dr. Lewis, but if anyone has anything to add as well, feel free. But how did you manage being able to qualify for a residency after going specifically into retail?
Okay, so this is a very good question. It's a question that a lot of students ask me. I think it's a misconception that people feel like they don't qualify for residency if they go into retail. I felt like I was more prepared for my residency because I worked in retail. I had life experiences. I was able to talk to patients. I was able to have those difficult conversations with patients that a new student would be very timid about having. And I knew my why. I knew what I was doing this for. I gave up a salary for a resident salary. So I had more purpose than my co-residents. I knew what I needed to do. So I was more prepared going into residency after having that retail experience. After pharmacy school, I actually tried to do residency after pharmacy school, and I just wasn't prepared. My head wasn't in the right space. And I didn't get any interviews. I applied and, I did what I had to do. In my pharmacy school, they just kind of emphasized residency and nothing else. They said residency or retail. There wasn't really any other opportunities expressed. So I was like, well, I really don't want to work at CVS forever. So I'm gonna just do residency. Went in with just a blank mindset, and I didn't get any interviews. After I went into retail, got that experience, I applied to, I think it was 11 programs, and I got 11 interviews. So I went in and I knew what I was going to do. I was more confident. I was able to analyze what I needed to do, and I just had more purpose. So I don't think it's a disadvantage. If you're in retail right now and you want to go back and do your residency, do your residency. Understand that you're going to have to adjust your lifestyle because you're not going to have that salary anymore. But you can do it. You can make it work. I have no regrets going back and doing my residency. I don't feel like I was at a disadvantage at all. And it was a decision that I made. Wait, I'm not done. I have one more thing to add. So the caveat to that is that I knew after a year or so in retail, I knew that's not where I wanted to retire, right? So I made that decision okay, so I'm going to have to go back and do my residency to really do something that I enjoy doing every day. And like I told you guys earlier, I wanted that direct patient care. So knowing that, I purposely went above and beyond in my pharmacy by reaching out to providers, keeping in contact with my previous mentors in pharmacy school, taking on projects, taking on opportunities that a lot of people didn't want to take on, like the district liaison. It was more work, but I took advantage of those opportunities because I wanted to beef up my residency. Beef up my CV. Because what you don't want to do is that after pharmacy school, you go and work retail for 3 years and you're not adding anything to your CV. You want to build up your CV so they can say, well, what have you been doing for the last 3 years? Of course, you're going to know how to treat those difficult patients, deal with the chaos of the pharmacy, multitask. You're going to be able to do all that, but you want to act strategically. What can I do that a pharmacy student that's just graduating pharmacy school, what can't they put on their CV that I can put on my CV in my practice? So have that mindset, be strategic about the things that you do, but still don't be afraid, because if you do all that, you're going to be at an advantage applying to residency programs.
Thank you very much. We have a hand raised. I don't know if you have something to say as well.
Good Zoom etiquette. So I'm not screaming over people. My mouth is in pain. But I have to agree with Dr. Lewis. And I'm sure all of us could attest to this. We look at residency applications. So people that apply to residency programs. So I've seen a ton of people apply after they've been in a community setting. And there has never been one point where we said, oh, throw this application out because they went and they were working in community. We absolutely don't want to view this. No. If anything, given a lot of times where, people sleep on those law exams, but they're real. And given, what the requirements of being licensed, when we know that someone has the capacity to be licensed and, to work and function in that way, or if they are licensed in the state in which they're applying for residency, for us, when I was in my residency program, that was actually an extra nod in their direction, because then we didn't have to worry about them becoming licensed. But I think that Dr. Lewis made a phenomenal point. It's all a matter of perspective and how it is. At the end of the day, you want to get a job. How are you presenting yourself for this position? What mind state are you in when you're going and you're saying, okay, I want to go do a residency? Are you studying up on that clinical information? Are you able to talk through the clinical aspects of the interview? that you'll have to complete should that be a part of your residency process. As long as you're able to do that, don't let, you know, the fact that you're coming from a community setting hinder you applying, because there at no point, and I'm sure everybody else can attest to this, at no point have I thrown out an app because someone came from CVS. It didn't matter the time that they worked there, whatever, at no point. And I think Star actually has a really good story as to how she transitioned from her community setting into AmCare. Is one that I truly admire and one worth talking about.
I am truly flattered. But I will interject with that one. As Dr. Jam has said, I went from Walgreens to IHS. So I went from a community setting to a federal ambulatory care position. Was it easy? No. Was it possible? Absolutely. Because it's a matter of what are you willing to do? Like, are you willing to jump through some hoops to be successful? Are you willing to go that extra mile to remove yourself from a space where you're not happy? I knew after my first year in community that I wanted to be somewhere else. I had a passion for ambulatory care. I thought about what I learned in SNAFA. I want to serve the underserved. So I found a job that met every single requirement that I had. And I just celebrated last month 2 years on this job. It has been phenomenal. And the first thing, because I asked after I got the position, I asked my director, you know, with me having my experience in retail, like, did that take away from my application? Because I didn't know. I was a year out of school. And she told me, Star, because you had experience, you weren't just a new pharmacist, you had experience as a pharmacist. Where some people your age or some people in your graduate, like the classes you graduated, have no experience whatsoever. So having that experience helped me get the position that I wanted. So please don't ever think that working in community is a hindrance to your career growth. It added to my career growth. So we do have some more questions. Thank you so much for the wonderful answers that have been given already. We do have a few, and I definitely want to make a point to get to these questions. Dr. Hill.
Yes. So our next question, so it's specifically for Dr. Lattin. Can you talk a little bit more about your pathway or previous experiences that brought you to Evernorth? Also, what do you think are the most relevant skills for your position?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think so. Starting out, in undergrad, I did global wealth and investment management for an internship. And then when I came to Howard and learned about managed care and industry roles, I applied at Eli Lilly, which was mentioned earlier, and completed a market access summer internship. And then for my API rotations, networked ahead of time and was able to solidify a health economics and outcomes research role, specifically at Novartis in the healthcare reimbursement API at Baxter. And then throughout my time, of course, worked retail and was very active, probably some people may say too involved, but was heavily involved in organizations such as SNAFA, APHA, well, not APHA, excuse me, AMCP, and other various organizations. Specifically for my role, it's more commercial, meaning functional areas like marketing, sales, finance. So if you have any mentors or jobs, or even if you're at the hospital, you can ask your preceptor for experiences that are more tailored towards a business setting, or even like a more health admin role, so that you can stand out and gain more skill sets in that area. But I think one thing that is key is that you all have heard before is being able to market and brand yourself and know your past roles, what you've learned, and the skill set you've developed in those roles so that you can market yourself. The leadership development program that I completed was not for pharmacists. I was the first pharmacist to complete it. And the only reason that was that came to be was because I knew the quality of a candidate that I was. I knew my past experiences, and I knew how to relate it to the role that I was applying for. So always be an advocate for yourself, but also try to gain non-conventional experiences. So for example, I served on the National Board of SNAFAS Legislative Chair. That can relate to health policy. That's event management, that's finance, if you're planning conferences. So every little thing that you do, well, not every little thing, you can finesse, and by finesse, I don't mean lie, but you can say what specifically in that role relates to the role that you're applying for. So if you're at CVS and you're in a retail role, don't downplay that role. You're doing things that pertain to managed care. You're doing things that pertain to outreach, finance. There's other things that you can tailor besides just saying cashier. There's medication adherence, there's clinical perspectives. So just know that you should probably have 2 or 3 CVs based off of the roles that you're applying to. When I was in pharmacy school, of course, there was mid-year. I also took into consideration my social economic background and the fact that compensation, of course, isn't everything, but the compensation that came with residencies and fellowships didn't quite align with my goals. So that's why I was thinking out of the box when it came to my role. But yeah, I'm long-winded and Southern, but to summarize what I said, just try to be able to do unconventional and kind of like out of the box experiences, whether that's at your community pharmacy, at your internship, on campus, if professors need help. Get those experiences because you can really use them and beef up your CV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lattin. This one we kind of already answered, but I'll ask it again to see if anyone has anything else to add. Kind of going back to Dr. Lewis, prior to applying for residency, were there any extracurriculars in addition to being retail pharmacist that you feel made you a stronger candidate? And again, if anyone else has anything to add, please do.
I just want to emphasize, I was going to type it, but I'll just say it. So as far as extracurriculars, I'll be very honest with you. I was very, very, very involved in pharmacy school, very involved. But when I graduated, I wanted a break. I wanted a break. I wanted to sleep. I did not want to be involved in every single organization. So I'm going to be completely transparent with you. However, like I said earlier, I made a point to do extra things within my career. Sign up for additional projects, network with different leadership personnel. I purposely took the worst store in the district as a pharmacy manager. My first job as a pharmacy manager was with the worst store in the district. I had to revamp the whole store. And I purposely, everybody was like, why would you take that store? I purposely took the store because I knew I could turn it green and I knew that I could change it. And my outcomes were amazing. And I did that from the ground up. So that is, I use that in like half of my interview questions for my residency interviews, because I was able to show what I did and how I, utilize project management skills and networked with providers and, pharmacy benefits management, leadership style, conflict resolution. I was able to use all of those examples and taking a hard store that no one wanted and implemented new projects and new initiatives in that store. And then trained all my technicians and trained all the pharmacists that came in. So it's just putting yourself in scenarios where you're able to showcase your skills. So no, I didn't do any additional extracurricular activities, but I made a point to make a difference in my career.
We have a couple of hands raised.
Yes, a couple hands raised, yes.
I was just going to further highlight what Dr. Lewis was saying with regards to your CV and building and expanding on what you're capable of. You have to remember, as a student, you basically have that information already on your CV. Your job after you graduate, of course, if you want to and have the desire to remain involved, is to find new experiences that make you a better candidate in comparison to what you were as a student. So although a lot of people stay involved, and there's nothing wrong with that if you want to stay involved and find different niches to gravitate to, but you almost have to do a self-reflection and come up with an idea about what made me a candidate that wasn't worth picking at that point versus someone who could show up and show that you made growth. And continuing to do the same thing doesn't necessarily show that you've grown. It just shows that you're continuing the same path. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Did we have another hand raised? I think I saw another one. Someone else had something else to add.
It was me. I just had a really quick tidbit, and it was just to kind of piggyback off of what Dr. Latin and Dr. Lewis had said. I think that people count themselves out before they really need to, especially within the experiences that we gain through pharmacy school and after, and things that you do as a student intern, things you do as an API student, things you do as an IPI student. There should really be a running log of the things that you're accomplishing through pharmacy school. You think that you're not doing anything, but you're doing so much. You're doing so much, and you're doing things that you don't think is important, but you're impacting a whole system. You're impacting a whole pharmacy. You're changing, workflows. And there's so many more words that I have, but generally the thing about it is that you need to be able to capitalize on these experiences that you have and that you're gaining through the rotations, through your work experiences, through the things that you're doing at work. Whatever background you're coming from, you have a story. All these interviews that you're going to go, no matter what field you're going, they're going to ask you behavioral questions. They want to know your STAR method. They want to know your situation. They want to know the task you felt. They want to know how you were able to get through that situation and what was your response to it, right? And so they want to know what this entire story was. No matter what the situation is, whether you think it was big or small, it might be applicable to that situation. It might be applicable to that site. It might be applicable to that position. And so don't count yourself out before you really need to. Take account of the things that you're accomplishing, write it down, keep it in a book. Honestly, I keep a running log of things that I'm doing during my residency, because I know that at some point somebody's going to ask me, hey, what project were you able to work on? And I can say, hey, I worked on this, I assisted with this, I was able to get this many people to sign up for this. All of these things, numbers are really important, activities, those action words that you're going to put on your CV, all of those things are super important. So always remember them.
And Dr. Jam, you have a hand raised?
Yeah, I can also take I think the next question is for me in the chat, so I can just lead into the next question too, if that makes it easier for you, Kristen. So, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I was about to say, go right for it.
Okay, sounds good. In regard to, I'm not sure if the question is because I see it saying something outside of your comfort zone and then something being unacceptable. So I trained and I went to school in I didn't go to a historically Black college for pharmacy school. So it was a PWI. And it was a different type of experience for me. And then when I went I'm saying this because when I went into my fellowship training, it was also a different experience for me, because I'm going from this place that I feel safe, this place where I feel accepted, this place where people look like me, and then I'm going into a setting where they don't. So I think that, I understand things that were outside of my comfort zone, doing things that were outside of my comfort zone, but then having that moment where I needed to have boundaries as to what I would deem acceptable and then unacceptable based upon my own personal boundaries as to what it is that I was not and what I was going to do, what it is that I would not and would put up with in terms of behavior from those that may have been above me or those that may have been in mentorship roles. I don't know if that's what the question is asking, because sometimes And I always think about things from an equity standpoint, from the standpoint of a Black woman being in a white profession. I think sometimes there are things that we as Black pharmacists or minoritized pharmacists may be asked to do, or I know there have been situations that I have been in that have been different or word or handled differently than that of my counterparts that are not Black or not of color. And I may have looked at it as, oh, I have to keep pushing. I have to keep doing this because I have to make sure I do stuff outside of my comfort zone. Because my dad always told me I had to work 3 times as hard as the white person so that I could succeed or so that I could see the success that they had. But should I have a boundary? Are some of those things unacceptable? Is that now like bullying in my career because you have people that are in those positions that take advantage of the fact that you are a person of color in these roles? So to this question, I think I would hit it from a different standpoint. I feel like you as an individual know what is it that's in your comforts? What is it that's forcing you out of the box? For me, doing in vitro research was forcing me out of my typical box. I didn't do research like that. You don't see Black women that do benchtop research that are pharmacists, Black women in general, but Black women that are pharmacists that do benchtop research. So that was me going outside of my comfort zone. What was me doing something acceptable was accepting being berated by my mentor for something that my white counterpart would not have been berated for. Now, that's not me going outside of my comfort zone. That is something that's unacceptable. That's me having to establish boundaries of what it is that I was willing and not willing to take. So I think that you have to decide what is that boundary for you? What is that boundary for your career? And to acknowledge it from that perspective. Like I said, I think in terms of my last name is Abdul Mutakabir. My husband is Muslim. So I think in terms of color, I think in terms of this very white profession that we are underrepresented in. So I want to be just transparent about how I view that question. But in terms of academia, and then I'll make sure that I am short, Dr. Hunter, so you can tap in, especially because you are far more seasoned than I. So I'm very junior in where I am in my place in academia. So I entered academia in August of last year, so in August of 2020. And for me, my dad is an educator. My mom is she's just got promoted. So, you know, you see Bettina Small in the streets, congratulate her. But she's now an educator in her new role. And my parents have always been teachers. That's something, they've always been lovers of people. And I think that that's something that they ingrained in me. So for me, I've always looked at life and just my overall purpose as being bigger than like what it is that I'm doing right now. So, I mean, of course, we have the money that comes with pharmacy and all that jazz. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I don't take advantage of it. I'm from Detroit. I love a good label. I drive a Mercedes, you know, like, you know, I love the buddy. I'm not going to lie to you. But what it is for me is when I leave this place, everything that is within me leaves with me. So everything that I know, everything that I have to offer to the profession is gone when I leave, not to think in terms of mortality. But when you teach others, when you embody students, when I can be the professor that I wish that I would have had in pharmacy school, when I can teach the students the way that I would like to see pharmacy be practiced, when you can shape the new era of clinicians to be empathetic, to be equity minded, to really to reform the way that it is that we see healthcare. That's what academia meant for me. And I wanted to be what it is that I did not have. Like Dr. Acosta, I went to school in Connecticut and it was different vibe. I ain't never seen nothing like it in my life. So I knew what it is that I wanted. I knew what it was. I knew that I wanted to see a Black woman represented amongst the faculty in my school. I knew I wanted somebody that could see me, that could understand where I was coming from, that could make my doctoral experience, because people don't talk about doctoral experiences and the impact that they have on on us as people. I'm still in therapy. I'm really big on mental health. You know, shout out to Dr. Lewis. Still in therapy, working through what it is that being a Black woman in a white program did to me. So I wanted to be able to help people navigate that space. So I think when you're in academia, what Dr. Hill said is important. Continue to remember your why. Why are you there? Continue to re-ask yourself, is what I'm here for, what I'm doing. Remember to be selfless. Remember that the job doesn't always look exactly the way that they told you it was going to look. I told y'all I got 6 jobs, but advocate for your salary. Make sure that you remember you can't. I mean, and Dr. Hunter, I wish I would have knew you, because remember that you can't go back to that table till after promotion. Well, depending on how it is that you are there as a professor. For me, I'm tenure track. I can't talk to them again until I'm promoted. Advocate for yourself. But that's all I got. I'm off my soapbox.
So I'll jump in and hopefully, internet don't crash or something while I'm talking to y'all again. But my first thing, Dr. Jam made me feel old because she said, you real seasoned, but she said seasoned with a lot of emphasis, it wasn't like, are you seasoned, like seasoned, like with a lot of emphasis. But no, I kid, but I echo a lot of the sentiment that you, first of all, if you're wanting to go into academia to put things in perspective, I'm the chair of the faculty search committee at Texas Southern University. So in my department, I'm responsible for essentially hiring the individuals that come into my department. I give the recommendation and the dean essentially follows my recommendation 100% of the time. So how do we choose those individuals? Because I think that's maybe what one of the parts of the question. I think the uncomfortable is opposed to something that is unacceptable. That's an excellent and a whole nother place to go. I heard mental health being something that was still being you're still seeking mental after the residency program that Dr. Jam completed. And unfortunately, that is probably something that's common that if you talk to all of the panelists, some of the training and things they had to go through during their training has affected them long term. I'm out of my fellowship from MD Anderson multiple. I graduated in 2007, so I am seasoned. You know what I mean? So I have been a pharmacist for almost 15 years. So I just say it, but I can still remember those certain times when I was doing my fellowship where I felt like I was not being treated appropriately. I wasn't being treated fairly. It had something to do outside of what my abilities were, maybe by the way I looked. I still remember those times. So, you go through that, and that's not to deter anyone from wanting to do that training. I think that's to prepare your mind for the battle that you may have to go through if this is the place that you want to be in your career. Because if not, not preparing yourself mentally is what's going to cause you maybe to not be as successful as you want to be. But going back to like how you can get into academia, multiple ways you can do it. There's individuals that completed their PharmD and then they did a PhD. So, you have that PharmD PhD, the tandem that can be completed while you're in school, and then also doing a PhD proper, if you will, following your PharmD. That's one way to get into academia. That usually leads you into more of the pharmaceutical sciences and away from like the clinical track. But you still can enter academia that way. You also can enter academia by doing a residency PGY1, PGY2, PGY1 only. You can enter that way. We have faculty members that enter that way. Yeah, I'm a faculty member that essentially did a PGY1, a PGY2, and a fellowship. That just puts you more on the side of where maybe you've had more research training, not necessarily that you have to be on the tenure track. Like Dr. Jam is on the tenure track. I wouldn't have to be on the tenure track when I started, but I did enter the tenure track. You then have individuals that really want to focus on patient care, which is where I am now in my career, and I'm on the clinical track. So you have two different tracks. and your training dictates which track you typically go in. If you have some research training, they may push you more toward the tenure track. If you are more clinically oriented, majority of the time in most pharmacy schools in the country, there are some that only have tenure track, like Texas Southern was one that only had tenure track before me. They would have everybody in the tenure track. So your postgraduate training is important. I've had a lot of students that have come to me and been like, how can I be a faculty member at Texas Southern, Dr. Hunter? I didn't do a residency. So there's always adjunct positions that are available to where you can still actually teach students in the pharmacy school. You can be involved with preceptorship. You can be involved, because I think preceptorship and teaching lectures in class, especially the P1s and P2s, is something that even without the postgraduate training, that individuals can get heavily involved in that. And I've had a few people that have gotten into the actual full-time role by doing that, where they were just involved in teaching the students in their early years in pharmacy practice classes, and they kind of work that into an actual position. So there's a lot of different ways to enter academia. I think the first thing you want to do, and I'm not for sure if the individual who asks us the question is a pharmacist or not, but if you're already a pharmacist, there's always opportunity at the pharmacy school that you're closest to geographically, or now even virtually. You can possibly do things that are even not at pharmacy schools and in your geographic location, but getting involved from a teaching or precepting standpoint is the start. Expressing interest and wanting to be on the faculty will be the continuation. And then finally, understanding, and she says she like labels, you know what I mean? So when you're talking about what you do in reference to academia, sometimes the number, and this is, I know she's going to echo what I'm going to say here. Sometimes the number of what you make as a faculty member is not equivalent to maybe what you would make in a retail setting or at a hospital system. That's why she keeps saying something about her salary. So it's not the same, but I can tell you that there's no better job than being in academia, in my opinion. And I can say that my student at the Herald is on the line. She'll tell you I do everything that a pharmacist can do, or I have done it. And I can tell you that being in academia is the most fulfilling. Being in academia has the best schedule in proportion to the amount of hours theoretically that you see, the amount of hours you theoretically work. Being in academia is the best. Like, there's no arguments about going on vacation in the summer. There's different things that you just don't have to deal with when you're in academia. So I would end with saying, I definitely think you should, if you're interested in academia, pursue it in the most serious way. And postgraduate training is the easiest pathway into academia, but it's not the only way into academia. It's just, if you don't do postgraduate training, you just have to understand that you're going to have to do some different things to get yourself in front of the powers that be, to be able to interview and possibly get the position that you're looking for.
Dr. Harold?
Oh, I was going back to the soapbox about the line. Like, your comfort zone is something that's acceptable. I know for new practitioners, this can sometimes be very challenging to determine. And I just want to say this would be a good opportunity, if you are teetering, to use those that are around you. This is a good time to tap into your mentors and ask them questions about the experiences that they've had. Because this is not new. This is, like Jacinda hinted at, this is something that's consistent, and all of us could speak to the unique experiences about intersectionality, being a woman and also being an African-American woman. These look different for us. You know, my counterpart may be able to be very challenging during rounds. That is not my role. I have to think about things a little differently. So I will say the way that we navigate is very special and significant to ourselves. But this is a time frame where I can say, I've called Dr. Hunter, what do you think about this? Or what do you perceive as something that I should be doing versus something I shouldn't be doing? So if you're a new practitioner, make sure that as you're going, that you build your repertoire of mentors that look like you and can speak to the significant experiences that you may have that look different from your counterparts. So that would be the only tidbit I would add to the conversation about the question.
Thank you so much. And I definitely want to add to the academic piece. So yes, I definitely agree with all of the points that have been made about academia. I recently have had the opportunity to become a preceptor at my hospital in the pharmacy department. And it has been amazing to be a student preceptor, and I'm working on becoming a residency preceptor. I do not have a residency. I'm not residency trained. I am looking into getting a teaching certificate, and I have a few colleagues of mine who the only pharmacy school in the state of New Mexico is at the University of New Mexico. And I have a few colleagues who are adjunct professors. Some of them have PGY1 trainings, others do not, but they all are adjunct professors in different areas in regards to therapeutics. So there definitely a multitude of ways, if you are interested in academia, to pursue that. I thought for a long time I could never be in academia. And it wasn't until recently that I found out, okay, I could get a teaching certificate and work my way up to being an adjunct professor at a university. And so the only limits that you have are the ones that you put on yourself. So please don't think that something's too far-fetched, that, oh, I can't do this because of XYZ reason. No, that's not the case. You can do anything that you set your mind to. It's about how hard are you going to go for it? How hard are you willing to try to obtain that goal? That's mainly the thing. How hard are you willing to work? Okay, plan A doesn't work. Plan B didn't work. Plan C didn't work. We're going to go all the way up to plan Z. And that's just it. Do we have any other questions by any chance? I think we did get to all the questions. Dr. Hill, am I missing anything?
Nope, we hit all the ones within the chat at least.
Okay. All right. I think we should wrap things up. I don't want to keep people too late. I already know it's 8:25 Mountain, and it is, yes, it's 10:25 on the East Coast. So all my East Coasters, thank you so much for tuning in at this late hour. I think of Dr. Latin because I know she's in Atlanta. So everyone, all the attendees, thank you so much. All the panelists, thank you so much for volunteering your time to drop such amazing gems. I am in awe. I am in awe. Thank you so much to every single person. This has been great. I've learned something. So this has been great. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, and have a great night. Okay.